Hey guys, I just wanted to reach out to you and let you know that Surewinder is still selling amazing products. Some of you guys have been dragging your feet for whatever reason. If your shoulder hurts, do not waste time. Pull the trigger. I just bought 4 or 5 of them, and we had 2 guys out. You know how much it cost me to pay for 2 guys being out with bad shoulders? We just pulled the trigger and we said, listen, everybody's going to have one on a truck. It's mandatory. You got to use it. Don't hesitate. Don't wait till your guys go down. It's going to cost you more. Buy a Surewinder.
What is up, party people? Hopefully that wasn't too loud in your ear. I am having a good day. My 10-year-old football team that I'm coaching won a big game Saturday. We won a game that we were picked to lose by 28, and we won 14-13 with a tackle on the 1-yard line to stop them from scoring with no time left on the clock. Pretty crazy ending. Anyway, listen, we talk a lot about successes as business owners, and rightfully so. I mean, who wants to talk about failures? Me. So today I'm going to talk about what I think is my top 10 mistakes I've made since starting my business. And I was thinking about, I'm listening to a book by John Maxwell. And by the way, it's called, let me just pull this up. Let's see here. Sorry, guys. It's like many communicate, few connect, or something like everyone communicates, few connect. So that's John Maxwell book. Everyone communicates, few connect. And he was just talking about wins and losses and how it's really important that people know your losses. I'm pretty transparent, but it just got me down a rabbit trail of thinking about all my losses, all my mistakes that I've made. And he was talking about how a lot of times people receive better from people who don't just talk about successes all the time, but also people learn a lot from people's failures. And I do talk about my failures on here, but I thought, like, why not try to come up with my top 10 failures with a +1? Because you guys know I love +1s. And so let's get into it. Number 1, and this is no particular order, but these are things that I'm going to really encourage you to slow down and focus on, because these are things that are huge regrets of mine that really stand out and impacted my business in a negative way and held us back. Number 1 is not doing my due diligence on hiring. So if we got a resume or somebody called in, they're like, oh, I got this experience and I can install doors. And, you go through your normal questions and you're like, great, we needed somebody, let's hire you. Those historically have been the worst hires ever. Like, my goodness, dude. I don't know if it's just Atlanta, but our industry in Atlanta has some of the most, con artists, the worst con artists. And they don't care. They will steal from you. They will cheat from you. They will lie to you. They will not show up. They will not call. I mean, they're stashing your parts and stealing your tools and starting their own businesses with it and stealing your customers. And just like, you got to constantly be watching your back 24/7. And these guys have worked at enough places and figured out the tricks of the trade. And so you just got to be really careful with that. But when I mean doing my due diligence, I mean, like, we do not hire anyone any longer without doing our due diligence, doing background checks, like doing references, you name it. So anyway, long story short, number 1 is definitely slow the hiring process down. Do your due diligence. and make sure that you're hiring the right person. Number 2, not hiring people from outside the industry. That's but you couldn't see that one coming. Again, just the crooks and the thieves and the liars, the greed, the demands, the prima donna attitude. Like that's none of that aligns with who we are and what we're looking for. And now that we don't have any of that in our business, man, we are freaking clicking and rocking and rolling, and it's great. And so we've been able to weed all that out. So that's been good. But I would say avoid hiring people from outside the industry. You may need a couple core guys, but just know that if they're coming from outside the industry for whatever reason, like I just think it's kind of wild, wild west. There's a lack of leadership in ownership in the garage door industry, and these guys get treated poorly probably the first couple of times, get burnt, and they kind of got this screw you mentality, and they bounce from place to place, and then they think they can do it better, so they learn everything they can from you and then steal your stuff and go start their own business. So you normally don't get that from people coming from outside the industry. My experience has been that people outside the industry haven't learned all those bad habits. They have some level of professionalism in them, whether they've learned it from retail or customer service or whatever, and it's just not tolerated there. So I like hiring people from outside the industry. So that's number 2. Number 3, it took way too long for me to start developing leaders within my organization. And this is a big one because I think we would probably be in a significantly better position than we are right now had I started developing leaders 3 or 4 years ago. So right now, I've mentioned here before that we spend a lot of time developing leaders. We read books together. We come together once a week with people who aren't even in management, who want to be in leadership or grow into leadership. And like you're starting to see the fruit of that labor and developing these people. Hopefully they stay with us forever. But I think pouring into people early, however you choose to do it, I think it's very, very important that you start that process as soon as humanly possible. Even if it's just 1 or 2 people, like really, truly investing in trying to make them better, figure out their weaknesses and assign books for your weaknesses, come together and meet each week and talk about how that chapter or those chapters taught you something, what it taught you, how are you going to apply it, the expected outcome, things like that. I mean, whatever you can do, I would just say develop leaders within your organization as soon as humanly possible. That's number 3. So number 4 is I focused on doors instead of service as my primary business when we launched. And I think that's just because I'm a salesperson and it was easy for me to sell doors, get in, build a rapport, take measurements, order doors. I wish I would have done it differently. Think about it this way. All right. So to sell a door, most people are going out, doing a sales presentation, measuring, then following up multiple times if you don't sell it on site, then getting sign off, getting deposit, ordering the door, receiving the door if you have a warehouse, if not, driving to the distribution center, picking the door up or loading the door at your dock, driving to the customer's home, installing it, and you have a massively high return rate if one of your guys forgets something or damaged product is there. I mean, it's just a massive amount of work. And we've really struggled in the Atlanta market on deals that are, in that 3, 4, 5,000 range, being able to make enough money to justify that experience that we have to put into it. And the B-backs and damaged product and whatnot. So for that, like you need you need an office person, you need a salesperson, you need an installer, you need somebody that's going to communicate with for us, it's 3 or 4 people are involved, right? Salesperson for us is involved. We have an account manager that manages all the door sales. We have a project manager that manages the projects on the back end, doesn't talk to the customers. And then we have the installer. So we got 4 people, and then we have obviously a warehouse guy that's offloading that, putting it up, pulling it out when we're ready to install it. And so 5 people involved in installing a door. And if you're at $3,000 job, let's just say you're at 50% margin, that's only $1,500. And you got to take all those other people into the equation. By the time it's all said and done, man, like I just don't know how people justify that. So I would say focusing on doors instead of service was one of my first biggest mistakes. Where service, everybody's going after it, but in the early days, you are getting cash flow. You're done with the job. You don't really need any office people for that other than answering the phones. Production's low. Don't need a warehouse guy for the most part. Like, it's low overhead other than marketing. It's high profit margin if you're doing it right. And it's great for cash flow. What I think people get caught up in and where the biggest mistakes happen is we get impatient with the growth of service because, like a good service person is going to do anywhere between 50 and I think the most I've seen for a lot of guys is probably like $70,000, $80,000 in service for a month. So in order for me to justify a guy on the road, I really need them to be doing about $45,000 a month. And that gets us roughly where our profit margins need to be. Long story short, that's the goal. And in order to justify a second truck, you either have to double your calls, which is not easily done overnight, or you have to run that one guy a little bit harder until you can justify the hire of that guy. So naturally, it's easy for us to be like, well, if we're going to grow in revenue, I mean, we're going from, let's say, $100,000 with one guy, no, $1 million. Oh, let's see. Let's call it $700,000 for the year in service. Well, if you add a guy and you get marketing and you can duplicate that, that's 1.4, right? But that's not as easy as it sounds. I mean, like on paper, it sounds really easy, but everybody's going after repair. So your marketing's got to be able to support it, whatever. But if you start doing a bunch of doors, you got to support the load on the back end, which means that although it's easier to sell doors, I think, and get leads for doors, it costs more in the production side. And then the bigger that gets, the more business, the more people you got to hire on the back end, the more production, the more B-backs, the more. And that's what ends up eating you up. So if it were up to me, I would try to focus my attention on 50-50, probably 50% service, 50% sales on doors. And then I wouldn't just sell any doors. I would try to focus on mid to upper and kind of just tell people, hey, we start doors out at $5,000. $5,000 jobs is our minimum. Like that's all we do, 5 and up, because I just don't know how to justify it unless you're hitting that 60, 70% margin with any type of volume. I don't know. So sorry I spent so much time on that, but I wish I would have thought about that sooner, because now our revenue is, it's not bad with doors versus service, but it's not where I would like it. And I wish I would have grown my service department sooner and focused more on being a service company rather than a company that installs doors. Number 5, I started a commercial department too soon. So I think I tried to launch my first commercial department like 2017, which was only 2 years into my journey here. And we experienced a lot of like volatility, I guess is probably the best way to explain it. So, high highs and low lows in residential. And I was trying to avoid that. And when I did the research, 'cause I did extensive research on starting a commercial apartment here in Atlanta, it sounded great because the busy season was when the slow season was for residential. And I was like, man, if we get this going and it works out really well, we can bring balance to our revenue. But at the same time, you have a lack of balance because you're carrying overhead in slow months for one department just to carry the overhead for the months that you're doing good in the other department. And so that didn't work out as well as I had anticipated so early. When I needed cash the most, I ate up a bunch of cash with mistakes and slow paying jobs and hiring expensive people and buying expensive trucks and buying expensive trailers and forklifts and scissor lifts and all that stuff. So I think I started the commercial department way too soon. If you are starting your business and you're a residential guy and you want to get into commercial, like I think the best way to do that is to go in light duty commercial, kind of make a max on the height, and stay away from like new construction, and have your own payment terms, but go heavy on service and do service in commercial and stay away from the new door stuff early in the process. Once you have cash stacked and you feel confident that you're ready to move into that direction, then I would do it. But commercial is a huge cash suck. So it ate up a lot of my cash flow and probably stunted the growth of our company as well as our residential department because of that, because we were pulling resources. So that was tough.
Hey guys, I found something that changed my business and I want to share it with you. We've created packages that have included some of the best products in our industry to offer our service customers. The heart of that package is Stealth Hardware Kit. Stealth Hardware is the quietest hinges on the market. I challenge you to buy at least one of these, test it for yourself. Put it on your truck and design a quiet performance package for your customers willing to pay for a better, smoother running door. Buy your Stealth Hardware Kit at Service Spring, do a search for quiet hinge, and then buy that. You can buy a double or single door, 7 or 8 foot tall, and promise you, it'll change your service forever.
Somer USA and Somer Group want to thank you for an incredible year and the trust you put in them and their products. As you know, Somer places high value on relationships, education, customer service, innovation, and professionalism. And they are grateful to you for your part in the fostering and dissemination of these values. If there is any way Somer can support you in your journey, whether through their products, the values they hold to, or the knowledge Somer has gained through interaction with door dealers across the world, please reach out to the team at your convenience. They are here to serve you. Again, thank you from the entire Somer team. Check them out at somerusa.com. Tell them Ryan sent you.
Number 6, I did not micromanage my financials early enough. And what I mean by that is like you got to know what you're looking at and what you need to be watching, what you need to be holding accountable, and what you not need to be paying for, what you do need to be paying for. I mean, I'm talking about simple things too, like invoices from your manufacturer or distribution center. We've caught many of them that are wrong, like how many of them slip through, like how just, I'm talking about micromanaging the details of your financials. Like you could be doing jobs just to make up for the losses that you're not seeing in your financials. And so I strongly recommend micromanaging your financials as early as possible. Number 7, waiting too long to create SOPs. Standard operating procedures. This is so critical, especially if you're on a fast growth trajectory, that you have SOPs so that when you hire someone, you can walk them through the standard operating procedures of how to do their job and then give it to them and say, hey, listen, if there's ever any doubt, do this. And here's our core values, mission, vision statement. And so I'll create this. It took too long for us to create SOPs, mission, vision, and core values, because we make all of our decisions off of these things, and then they're living documents that we can make adjustments to. But this gives guidance to our staff so that they can make good decisions, that we don't have to babysit them. We can just keep it easy. And I think that works really well for us. So I wish I would have done that sooner, because although sooner you're focused on sales and cash flow and growth, I think it is important to slow down. Even if you can just, nowadays I'm able to bang out a SOP in like 10, 15 minutes using ChatGPT. I wish I would have done that sooner. And I know ChatGPT wasn't around, but you guys starting a business or early in the stage have an advantage of this, being able to create those sooner. Number 8, took too many risks for growth's sake. And what do I mean by that? I wanted to grow so bad. I wanted to grow the company to get it to a certain number. And, we're going to pass that number this year, but I thought it was going to happen in half the time. If it were up to me, I would have been very strategic on my growth strategy, which I feel like I kind of was to a degree, but I would have vetted it out more. I would have taken some less risk. Like last year, I took probably the most risk ever. I doubled and tripled down, and we're seeing the benefits of that this year, but man, there was lots of pain that went through that, right? And I feel like almost when we hit glass ceilings in our business, say we were trying to get over $1 million, we just struggling to get there. A lot of times it takes like a radical jump in order to be able to do it. And then you'll see you'll just go from 1 to 1.3, 1.5, and then you'll kind of hang out there. And I think the reason that is because you're a little bit bottlenecked. You're not prepared for the growth. So what I would say here is I took too many risks for growth's sake. I would say take risk, be smart about it, but also ask yourself this question: what if I grow and achieve my goal? Am I prepared for that? Are you set up for that? Or are you just going to hit another level of resistance and stay there until you take another big risk? So I would have a really good plan in place for, hey, if this plan works out in short term, am I prepared? Long term, am I prepared? If it doesn't work out, am I prepared? So those are all good questions to ask yourself for that. That was number 8. Number 9, I didn't make decisions on net profit, but rather revenue growth. And I'm ashamed to say that I'm probably in that average net profit for the most part, most months for the industry, which is historically pretty low. And, we're starting to get some strength because brand recognition and a lot of repeat customers and all that. But when I make decisions, or when I made decisions in the past, I was constantly thinking about revenue, sales, which was fine. But I think I could have invested in other areas to have gotten better net profit without adding so much expenses to the bottom line. So that's probably the biggest thing for me is I didn't make decisions on net profit, but rather revenue growth. And I would say for you, if you make that same mistake, I think you need to ask yourself or put somebody in your business in charge of bouncing ideas off of them. And their goal is to help you figure out how this impacts the net of your business. And does it align with your vision, mission, core values? Do you have SOPs if it's, that help you with this? just going out and making decisions for growth's sake, I think will do damage. So focus on that net profit line. And if you have a higher net profit but a lower revenue, then you can invest some of that net profit back into the business to grow. But I would say that's probably one of the biggest things that you should pay attention to. Number 10, I took too long to become different. I started my company in 2015. I got so pissed off about all of the door jobs. We have another local company here, and they literally will do anything to beat us in a door quote, like anything. To the point where I had people telling me that, hey, they really hate you guys. And as soon as I mentioned I had a quote from you, they told me that they would beat it by $1,000. Like literally a hit on us. So I played that game for far too long, where I was competing with bad businesses because they don't know how to run their company and they're so consumed by competition that they hurt everybody in the market, not just themselves, not just us, but everybody. But ultimately, I think the idea of dealing with such immaturity and lack of business knowledge and understanding of business really ultimately pushed me to the point where I was like, you know what? Like, where are these people not in the garage door industry? Well, I can tell you they're not doing high-end stuff because, number one, their people can't. Like, you're not going to walk up to a $5 million home the way they are and present the way they do and win jobs. So I was like, you know what? This aligns with me. This aligns with my core values, my vision. I love doing beautiful doors. So in 2019, we decided we were going to shift our business and start focusing on high-end clientele, high-end business. And I knew that, like, if these other companies try to copy me, like, it's only going to hurt them because they may be cheaper, but when it comes to like $20, $30, $40, $50,000 jobs, homeowners are making a decision off confidence. And I know these people do not have what it takes to deliver confidence to a homeowner about to spend that amount of money. So that was one way to separate myself. And then the other thing is like, far too long for me to advertise in areas where they can't advertise because they don't have the money. So had I done a few things differently, I think I could have advertised in other areas where smaller companies couldn't. And then we just have to out execute the big guys, which isn't overly complicated. The only big competition I would have seen at that level a lot would probably be Precision when Jaeger was running it. But they're now purchased by a big franchise, so I don't know if they're being ran the same way, but he was really good at advertising big and then being able to follow through and execute. So that was really it. We took too long to become different. And I think we were just like everybody else for too long. And I would challenge everyone here to process that idea that you might be just like everyone else. And why should anybody hire you? And once you start questioning that and you kind of sit there for a little while and resonate on it, you really start to question yourself. And that's when you get into a really good place, because now you're open to new ideas and you need to brainstorm with people that are ahead of you so that you can get some feedback. So that's the 10. And then I got a +1 that's probably not going to be relevant to everyone. That's why I did it kind of like a +1 instead of like an 11. But I started too many things. Many of you guys know I've been doing this podcast since 2019. I started a marketing agency in 2019. I did not expect the agency to grow like it did. I mean, we have just seen so much growth over the years. And it's crazy when you do that. You got GDU, you got Aaron Overhead Doors, you got Phantom Screens Atlanta. I mean, you're talking, let's see, podcasts, GDU, Mark Annuity, Aaron Overhead Doors, Phantom Screens Atlanta, 5 things. Coaching football, got a family. I built a house. I think I do too much. I overcommit. And so my advice to you would be, don't be afraid to say no. Number one, make everything you do worth it. And then just because you can do it doesn't make it a good idea. Right? I can do a podcast and help a bunch of people. I think, hopefully that's my goal with this, is to educate and entertain. But should I have done it? It probably has benefited us a little bit, but not a lot. So for that reason, I would say if I had to do it all over again, I'm not sure I would have started Torsion Talk podcast. At the beginning of this year, it was on one of my list of things to stop doing. But I happened to get a message from someone, and it really encouraged me to keep going with it. And I think that's the difference is, sometimes things don't make sense, but you still do them. And it's not all about you, right? And for me, this isn't all about me. I try to give as much as humanly possible to help out. And when I get those messages, I think it helps me know that I'm making a difference, because sometimes I question it, and then the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing. The agency, I've never thought of shutting that down. Like, I love it. It's fun. I love being able to take a look at a business. And, I feel like since I was young, God blessed me with the ability to just look at a business and find ways to make it better. And some people will look at me and be like, oh, you're such a pessimistic because you're pointing out all the negative things about a business. But I literally, like, snap of a finger, can walk in a lot of times and just be like, oh, here's a list of things that I can see that need to be fixed right out of the gate. And I don't know. I call it a gift, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. But I get to do some of that and help people make their businesses better through my agency. And I think that's a great goal of ours. And, over the years, we've struggled in some areas and done well in others. And it's definitely a learning thing. And but I love what I do over there, and I love my team. And then GDU probably is the biggest thing, like my purpose, right? Like my why. We talked a little bit about why I'm doing things. Like, I love helping businesses because I get a lot of gratitude from watching them prosper. I really am passionate about business in general, but I love people, and being able to, whether it's me or connecting people together, like, I love to see good things come from that. And so GDU is like, I don't know, it's probably the greatest thing I've ever done in my life. And to know how it came about is kind of funny. And then Aaron is like, that's the thing that's connected it all, right? I mean, without Aaron, none of this would have ever happened. And it's my heart, it's my soul, I love it. I love the people. I love everything about. I don't love everything about Aaron. That's not true. I wish it was hugely profitable, like all the other stuff that I do. And like just a healthy profit margin for a business, like, it should be 20% or higher. And I feel like you got to fight tooth and nail to make that happen for a garage door company. And then it's still some out of your control. So long story short, I took on a lot. I love everything I do, and I've got a lot of passion to give. And I think I've overcommitted. And so I would just tell you that don't take on too much, but do as much as you can, if that makes sense. I'm not even sure if I'm making sense at this point. You get into starting too many things. I think everything needs to benefit each other to a degree, but I can see the effects of me being in GDU, me doing Markenuity, and me doing the podcast pull me away from and make Aaron less successful, right? And vice versa. Like me being at Aaron makes Markenuity less successful, makes GDU less successful. But part of the reason why I like GDU too is that it's not completely dependent on me. Like I could probably not attend things and it would probably thrive still, because the whole thing's built on the people and the structure and organization. And I've got someone in charge of that who does an amazing job. And so it's not even dependent on me showing up or being a part of. And I love that too, right? Because I don't feel like hostage. I don't feel like all the weight's on my shoulders for that. And that's a good feeling. So I hope today was helpful. Sorry for my little rant there at the end. You might have got more than you bargained for, but that's Torsion Talk Podcast. And I hope you guys have a wonderful week. I'll see you next week. Take care. Be safe.